Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the 9th episode of the Life in the Red podcast for this season. And it's gone quick, Amy. You know, we were just talking about Ireland. We were just talking about...
A month ago.
Yeah.
I got back a month ago.
I mean, it was like worlds away now at this point. We're at a completely different point in the season. There's been so much going on. And I think, you know, the number one thing we've heard from the team this week, and we're going to focus on it a lot in this episode, the bye week changes, chance to reset, just recharge the batteries. And I think we needed that too.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I have the same feeling right now that I did week 6 of the NFL season last year. I feel like it's a completely different season. Like Ireland, that could have been last year. And it feels like a totally different time. So much has changed. I feel like we're all completely different people than we were a month ago. It's just, there has been so much, and we're only at the quarter mark of the season, which is bewildering to me.
Absolutely. And I mean, those changes when we're thinking about what the players have gone through in particular, I mean, taking that first trip, you know, overseas, playing that game, all the different, you know, circumstances surrounding it. You know, you get back home, Frost gets fired, Chenander gets fired. A lot of these guys, you know, they're going to have new coaches, new different voices in the rooms. You know, the team is obviously 1-3. You know, that's a major thing, but all the different circumstances going around. I mean, these players have been through a lot in this first 4-5 weeks of the season.
Oh yeah, and that's just, you know, for the new guys, whether that be transfers or freshmen. The people on this team who are older, who've been here for longer, they have seen so much in their tenures. And yeah, it's up there, and it's going to be an eventful ride moving forward too.
Definitely. But, you know, the big thing during the bye week, you know, players got the chance to go home Thursday, Friday, Saturday off, no team activities on those days. So, you know, whether they stayed on campus, just got to relax, or whether they got to go home, I know that's obviously a nice chance for the players, just because, I mean, you're caught up in, you know, the busyness of the season. You're thinking football every day. So just a few days, I think, you know, to take a step back, maybe pick up some of your other hobbies, you know, that they have to leave off during the season was great. But the coaches were busy too. They were out on the road recruiting. You know, Mickey Joseph talked a lot about getting back to Louisiana, Monroe, Louisiana, New Orleans, you know, seeing some old friends. And they had some words for him, didn't they?
Yeah, everybody has answers. Everybody wanted jobs. And to quote Mickey, it's typical New Orleans.
Yeah, I think that's just so funny. I mean, you go back to, you know, the people who know you best. Of course, they're gonna give him a little bit of a hard time, but still, I'm sure it was great for him to be back there.
Yeah, maybe pick up a po' boy when he's running in between schools. No, I know we just ate muchachos, but now I'm hungry for a po' boy.
That does sound good. But you know, all the other assistant coaches, not all of them, but most of them were out checking on prospects too. You know, in the various recruiting regions. You know, Brian Applewhite down in Texas, Bill Bush, Kansas City. Barrett Root out in Colorado. So all these coaches, you know, going over, checking in on the 2023 commits, which was a major thing. But still, you know, what we heard from Mickey, the approach for recruiting, those coaches are still, you know, they're still putting feelers out there. They're still getting Nebraska's name out there, making sure that this program's set up to keep recruiting in the next few months.
Yeah, and as Mickey said, like, he's not going to sabotage the place. Like, he wants no part in that. Like, they're recruiting. He says, you know, they're recruiting kids to the school. Obviously, kids come for a number of different reasons, right? Whether that's coaches, the school, all of those things combined, but they're still going to keep recruiting, even though they don't know right now what the future holds for them, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and I mean, I wrote a little bit more of an extended piece on the recruiting, but his comments about, oh, we're not going to sabotage the place, like, that sounds bad when you hear that initially. You're like, why would you sabotage the place? But what he's saying is, if you're an assistant coach and you know you're not going to be retained at a school, it's very easy to keep recruiting a player knowing, hey, you know, I'm going to extend you a scholarship offer at my next place. What he's saying is these kids are committing to Nebraska. They're going to honor that. That's the staff's approach. Mm-hmm. Yep, so, absolutely. But kind of maybe the negative that you can say is Nebraska kind of lost the bye week in a way.
Kind of, yeah.
In regards to the on-the-field results. Looking at the teams that they'd played already this year, none bigger than that K-State-Oklahoma game. Because, you saw Oklahoma just come in and destroy Nebraska. 2+ quarters, the game was pretty much over right there, start of the third quarter. Wildcat defense did a great job, I thought, shutting down Dylan Gabriel, making life tough for the Sooners. But Adrian Martinez, what a game from him. 382 yards of offense, 5 total touchdowns. Of course, got the game-winning touchdown there in the fourth quarter.
And saluted one Brody Belt in a way.
Indeed,
which was really cool. For me, anyway. I just, the brotherhood in football goes so much farther than your teammates.
Absolutely.
To your past teammates.
Yeah.
It's all of it. But I thought that was special, and Brody did too.
Yeah, and for Adrian too.
He's been through so much. Talk about a guy who's been through so much.
He needed a performance like this.
Yeah.
To really say, this is that's going to be the most defining win of his college football career, unless K-State goes on something crazy. We'll never say never, but I think that one he'll remember that game for a long time.
Oh, absolutely.
But the other opponents too, the only team Nebraska beat this year, North Dakota, lost to another FCS foe, Southern Illinois, which, that's whatever. But Southern Illinois had beaten Northwestern, which just dropped to Miami of Ohio. Now 1-3 on the year, that one win over Nebraska.
Yikes.
And that's the only concern, because you have players, obviously everyone should still be optimistic.
Yeah.
There's so many games left to play. We heard Brody Belt say, we're 0-1, the West is still to play for. Yes, you should still have those goals, but when that one loss is to the team that's arguably just as bad as you are in the Big Ten, right there at the bottom, it's tough to have that level of optimism, I'd say.
From an outside perspective, absolutely, but the team has to be.
Yeah.
The team has to be optimistic. There is no way around that. What happens when you give up and you lose that hope? Do they get worse? I don't even want to put what I was about to say out into the universe. I stopped myself. Y'all know what I was about to say, though. You have to believe in yourself, because I don't want to know what it looks like if they don't.
Yeah, and obviously I think that's a great thing that their coaches are still getting the team out there. We heard a lot from Mickey about how the focus is just on Indiana. Yes, you have the long-term results that you want for the rest of the season, but realistically at this point in the year, it's all about just beating that opponent in front of you and moving on. And what we've heard, we should get into some of these changes that the team made during the bye week, because that's, it's with that in mind. It's beating Indiana, yes, but how do they keep progressing over the next few weeks of the season? And a lot of that has to do with the new players. We heard Mickey talk about how he wants to see some of these younger guys in there. They want to give other players a chance, and we saw that. Lots of changes in the new depth chart released this week. So we'll start along the offensive line. Obviously, Teddy Prowaska out for the rest of the year. So Turner Corcoran, he'll slide in there at left tackle. Ethan Piper there at left guard. The notable thing, Kevin Williams, who had gotten some playing time last week, suffered an ankle sprain. He'll be out a couple weeks. And so Brant Banks right now, he's that guy that they have penciled in as a backup, both left guard and left tackle.
Your depth is getting thin.
Yeah.
And that's not where you want to be, especially because right now, and Whipple talked about this, a lot of the issues that they've been having on the offensive line have been communication-based. When you keep having to change the personnel that you're using, that changes how you communicate with one another on the offensive line. Because, okay, let's say you have a good understanding with the guy next to you, and then he's out for a couple weeks. It's just a revolving door at any of those positions, or flipping guys around.
Yeah.
It doesn't help. And it's just, you need to be on the same page with one another. And how can you be on the same page when guys keep getting hurt? It's reps at practice and changing things up and moving people around and just getting used to being around guys that you may not be around for this week, but you might have to be down the road.
Well, and for a guy like Corcoran, obviously he can play both left guard and left tackle, but those are two very different positions. So, that's that's just such a major thing. And like you said, the offense really making it a focal point this week to make sure the communication is all down pat there on the offensive line. But behind them at running back, A.J. Allen, other big injury, out for the year as well. So Gabe Ervin, guy who's coming back from a big injury last year, had a little bit of sporadic playing time the first couple of weeks, but really got in there late against Oklahoma, ran pretty well against the backups, but now they're going to need him to play that A.J. Allen role and spell Anthony Grant in some of these different packages.
Yeah, and he's done it before. But yeah, it's just, it sucks when you see like a true freshman like A.J. Allen, or just a young guy in general, doesn't have to be a true freshman, and you can see them start to put things together and then they get hurt. It's just, I know injuries are a part of football, but I hate them. I hate them just because you never know, like, there's so many what if questions, right? And that's going to be one of them this season. And hopefully he gets better. I mean, he tweeted, "It's just a collarbone, like I'll be fine," or something to that effect. But yeah, we'll see more from him as he recovers from that next year.
Yep. So Ervin stepping up there. And then on defense, this was a major issue, obviously, throughout the first 4 games. They need some different guys there on defense to step up, perform better. So there's been some major, I think, shifts among that depth chart. First up there, Chris Kolervick, moving from nickel to inside linebacker. We saw that the last 2 weeks, him helping out, obviously with Henrik being hurt. They needed some different guys to step in there, but, making that full transition to be on the 2 deep there at inside linebacker. Ernest Hausman, the true freshman who had been getting a lot of playing time, will step into more of a backup role, still contribute on special teams. And, Hausman, a guy that I saw play at Columbus and I think has tremendous potential to be a great stopper in the middle of that defense. What we've heard is he just needs to have the game slow down for him. I mean, it's just such a big jump, from high school to college, the caliber of athletes. And yeah, you really have to be that little step, quicker here at the next level. And so still just getting that game time, he needs to have that develop for him.
And that comes with time. Right? Some guys, that process takes longer than others. You see the same type of thing in the NFL. It's just making a transition between one level of playing to the next. Takes some time.
Absolutely. And I mean, for Hausman too, he was an outside linebacker to start his career, by the way, only moved to inside linebacker last year as a senior, so still getting to grips with that position. So we'll expect improvement down the road. But, having that nickel spot open up with Kolervick moving inside linebacker, the coaching staff, Omar Brown, a guy who, he kind of got dinged up a little bit early in the year, lost, I guess, kind of in that shuffle, you could say. A lot of different guys there, corner and safety. He's going to be a nickel. And, it seems like his teammates they really see a lot of potential there. A really athletic guy, got a nose for the ball, and now he'll be even closer to making some of those big plays that he wants to. Yeah,
I mean, if something's not working, find somebody to do it, right? And not to keep bringing up my time in New Orleans, but very similar with a guy there, P.J. Williams. He got buried in the depth chart at corner. They moved him to safety. The world opened up for him, and there's examples of that happening elsewhere. So maybe that'll happen for Omar.
Yeah, I mean, we keep hearing the coaching staff saying just got to get our best 11 on the field. So I think some of these changes are, yes, maybe they're good at this one position, but if putting them at this other position means a better unit, that's I think the key. And a lot of change there in the secondary, a lot of different backups, moving up the depth chart. Brandon Moore, Malcolm Hartzog, now the backup corners. Hartzog just got on the field there against Oklahoma, his first game action of the year. And then at the safeties, Phelan Sanford, guy who's been playing, backup snaps in quite a few games. He's the backup there. Deshaun Singleton, also backup safety. A guy that I thought Singleton was going to come in this year and play a big role. Hasn't really translated there in the game so far, but I think he has a lot of big athletic potential. And then Jaden Gould, freshman there, he'll be the number 3 safety. So we do be seeing these freshmen and safeties really getting a bump up in that depth chart this week.
Like Mickey said, if somebody's gonna show the potential that they can bring it, why not play them?
Yeah,
I agree.
And so, I mean, the changes aren't just stopping there, though. I mean, on a personnel basis, there were some bigger, I think, maybe schematic or organizational changes you could say that they were working on implementing. And the biggest thing, we talked about this in our breakdown videos that we shoot after the practices, but the defensive calls has been something that has been an issue all year. We've heard some of the players, just bits and pieces like, the call didn't come in, we weren't quite ready on this specific play. And what we've heard, in the last week is that the defensive staff is really focusing on one-word calls, getting it out there quick so that the defense just get your feet set, get ready to make the play, maybe just a little bit more reaction as opposed to thinking, where do I need to be for this specific call, this specific package?
Yeah, and it's just a simplification of everything, right? And so obviously, Bush was saying today, if we could just play one defense the whole time, it'd be great, but they can't do that, right? You have to prepare for so many different things, so many different plays, so many different variations of different plays. And the more you can simplify your defense to be able to account for as many of those wrinkles as possible is going to be the best possible thing for this defense.
Absolutely. And Bill Bush, like you said, now in charge of that effort. A big transition for him. I mean, going from a special teams unit that I think we can agree has shown really significant improvement this year as opposed to last year. But I mean, they're only on the field for a handful of snaps always, you're working with a lot different group of players, and now he's in charge of a defense that's bottom 5 nationally and getting ready to play a Big Ten schedule.
Yeah, like I said about, Mickey moving to the interim head coach, I felt that he was the best possible option for that role. Bill Bush, in my opinion, the best possible option to take over for Chinander. He has experience being a defensive coordinator. He's worked with really fantastic defensive coordinators, head coaches who were defensive minded. He's done it, he can do it, It's a hard transition though, because you're working with guys that, maybe you've worked with them, but in completely different ways. And now you have to flip the switch and completely change everything that, you're preparing for, because it's a completely different position. But he's done it before, and we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. And I mean, Bush said today, he said the entire defensive coaching staff has responded well. Players have responded well. Everybody's giving great effort to, put these changes into place. And obviously, I think, there's a reason why we're seeing so much emphasis on the defensive changes. They've been the place where, these improvements need to be made. That being said, on offense, they're still working on smoothing some things out. And probably the most notable thing is, we heard Mickey after the Oklahoma game say, hey, I wish I'd slowed down the pace a little bit there in the first half, helped out the defense a little bit. And Mark Whipple fully on board with, maybe finding opportunities to huddle up, maybe make tempo not the main focus of this offense at all times.
Yeah, I mean, slowing it down gets everybody on the same page, gives everybody a chance to communicate, especially when communication is a big issue right now. And there's a other added benefit of that too. Even when you slow things down on drives that aren't successful, that gives your defense more time to rest. And that defense needs all of the possible time it can have off of the field.
And that'll be big this week. Let's get into Indiana because...
High tempo.
Yes, because these Hoosiers, they like to get up to the line of scrimmage and run some plays, run it quick. A little bit different, I think, than most Big Ten teams. Yes, they'd love to be able to run the ball, but a lot of it goes through the quarterback. Connor Bazelak, done a great job so far this year, 108 for 102 passing, 1,171 yards and 7 touchdowns so far this season. Hoosiers also only averaging 3.4 yards per carry. But again, we've seen teams that are maybe not so built to run the ball, Georgia Southern comes to mind, come in and have a lot of success. So, I mean, that's the big question. I mean, do these changes pay off? It's hard. It's really hard to implement stuff so quickly. But then again, you had the bye week. You had the chance to scheme for this specific Indiana team. I think we should see a better defensive effort.
You hope so, right? Like, I feel like it has to be. I feel like it has to be. But who knows? Yep. I have been wrong so many times this season. I haven't lost many games in our pick'em, but most of my losses have been me picking Nebraska. So
happens
I'm an
happens to us
optimist.
all.
I'm an
Yeah.
optimist.
But I guess the only thing you can say about Indiana is they've been in close games this year too. Like, yes, they're 3-1, but 3-point wins over Illinois and Western Kentucky. I think it was a 13-point win over Idaho. Lost to Cincinnati by a couple scores. So I think quality-wise, they're going to be the caliber of opponent that Nebraska could come out and improve against. Show off some of those changes, but it will be difficult. Again, Indiana, 2-win team last year, already up to 3 wins. They have momentum versus Nebraska, a team that's really trying to restore its season and improve from what they've done so far, which brings us into our Husker Hot Topic. And this week we'll be discussing which players do we think will come out of the bye week with an improved performance, guys that really can show us a lot against Indiana. Amy, who do you think kind of jumps to your mind?
Yeah, so I'm taking a cheap answer here, and I'm taking the secondary in general between all 5 of those guys and their backups, right? I just feel like with Bill Bush, who has coached the secondaries and just the secondary, mostly safeties, but corners at some places too. Basically everywhere he's been, I feel like they will benefit so much from his teaching and his leadership and simplifying things. The safeties in general have been asked to do a lot, like way more than they should be responsible for. And I just feel like that group collectively is going to make a step forward this week.
Yeah, and I mean they'll be tested, obviously.
They will. They will be
Indiana.
very tested. But I still feel like, I mean, the goal for this defense, Bush said, is tackling, just getting in the right spot. And I feel like if they can figure that out and have some things taken off of their plate, I feel like things will be better on the back end. Things are there's always going to be a busted coverage. That happens in every game, no matter who you are. That's just the way it goes. You cannot be perfect every week. But the little things, if they focus on the little things like they say that they're going to do, the secondary should improve. And that's what I'll be watching this week, in addition to the run defense.
Yep.
But secondary first.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see on the run defense, but I'm also going to be on the defensive side of the ball, going with the inside linebackers, going for Nick Henrich and Luke Reimer. 2 guys that, were fantastic last year. A lot of different outlets, saying potential all Big Ten picks going into the year. I think there's a lot of people who are maybe disappointed or, they think these players haven't really played up to their potential this year. And I do agree with that to an extent, but it's a lot of the same stuff you were saying about the secondary. These 2 inside linebackers have been asked to do a lot because Nebraska's defensive line has been getting pushed back at the line of scrimmage. Some of those gaps just haven't been filled. The things 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 just just haven't been filled, the things 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 just haven't been